At this point, it's now dawning on me that I'm going to find it extremely difficult to ride the pace that this group can ride up that 7 mile climb. These guys are much lighter than me, and I need to put up a lot of power to keep up with them. So I had no idea how I was going to get over that climb, but I thought, well, just get to the garage. So that was another 20 miles of suffering. Get to the garage and fill up the water bottles. And by this point, if you followed my Instagram story, you'll see it. The status report was rough. The digestive system felt like it was blocked. I'd filled up the water bottles, I'd taken a drink of water, and I just was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. By this point, the backside was the colour of an orange traffic cone, or it certainly felt that way, just that rubbed, sort of chaffed to bits sensation. And I put the chamois cream on, and I mean, purely for moral, a morale boost, rather than I was getting any benefit, because at this point, the skin was rubbed raw. I don't know what it was doing, but the whole idea was that if I put some cream, it would take the feeling of sitting on a blowtorch away for a while. So I stuck the chamois cream on, got that on, and I thought, right, let's get thinking here, get your thinking cap on. And I started to think, I'm like, right, how could I do this? And I remember thinking to myself, right, you're in the shit, you're in the hole, right? That much is true. You know that you're up against it a bit. You're now at this point, you've ridden further than you've ever ridden at a pace that's like a high pace that you'd be happy with for a quarter of this distance. You've got 3/4 of this route done by this point. You've got 60 miles to ride. You've got 60 miles left. Basically, the 2/3 of the course is done. You've only got a third left. You've got one big climb, then a big descent, and then you can, a rolling terrain. You've rode this before. How could I do it? And this is the powerful thing that I want to illustrate to you, was the question was better. It was a better question. How can I do it? And I started to break it down. I was like, right, if I can get to the top of the climb, now in fairness to the guys, I didn't need to put myself under this pressure, because the guys said, look, we'll regroup at the top of the climb, meaning everybody can go at the pace that they can go to and they can stick in. Then the big dilemma. One of the guys says, there's a slower group going back, meaning that, hey, look, we're going to break off. Some of the guys were meeting their partners and their wives there, and they were going to take a slower route back. They're going to go the same route, but a slower pace. They were like, if you're finding it too hot, then here's the get out of jail free card. You can ride in the group and you can go slow, and you can go much slower. And hey, look, it was the exit, it was the offer of, hey, you don't need to ride this hard. And imagine how alluring that was. But being a boy that I said I'd rather implode. Maybe not the best strategy, but it was a strategy that I had, where I thought, I'm going to find a way to hang on to this group. I don't know how long I'll last, but I'm going to give it a go. And then I set off from the garage and started up this climb. And I said to the guys, look, I'll get you to the top of the climb. I'm going to start off early to get a head start. And I thought, right, let me get to the top of the climb. When I get to the top of the climb, I started breaking down the route, because I knew the route on the way back, and I started to break it up into chunks. And I'm like, right, if I can get over this climb, that's 7 miles. If I can do the descent, that's another 7 miles. And then from there, I've got, the next part and the next part and the next part to get through. And I thought to myself, right, I can, let me just get to the next point and I'll reassess. And something happened. I started doing the climb, and I still felt pretty shit. But I'm looking down at my power meter, because in a bike, some of the bikes, you can get a piece of equipment that measures how hard you're hitting the pedal. It measures in watts how much power you're pushing through the pedals. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not doing bad numbers. I'm like, these numbers are really good, considering all things: super high pace, changeable day, struggling with digestion. I'm 30 miles past my biggest ride, red hot pace with the group. And I'm thinking, these numbers are actually pretty good. I thought, right, come on, man, get to the top of the climb. Got to the top of the climb, and rather famously, there's a bagpiper playing at the top. So you get a real lift when you get to the top for two things. First, the climb's done, which is great in itself. And the second thing is that there's a bagpiper there. So if you're Scottish, there's no greater sound than a set of bagpipes, and you've achieved it. You've got to the top, so it feels good, and it felt like a little win, because by this point, the inner bitch is loud. But in fairness to the inner bitch, it was helping. It was like, look, how are you going to do this? It wasn't trying to beat me down. It was like, seriously, what are you going to do? So that was a switch where I thought, do you know what? This thing's playing to my favour. started asking the better questions and then started to break down the course. And then also the offer of taking the slower option. And I just put myself to the sword. I was like, right, look, you've came this far. See how long you can hang on.